Now, Dr. Rizwan Naseer from the much-acclaimed Rescue 1122 joins me from our studio in Islamabad this evening. Good evening, Dr. Naseer. You've had a great success with Rescue 1122. Why is that not happening all over Pakistan, and who's responsible?
Right. I think if we go to the Constitution, the management of emergencies is basically a provincial subject. So there has to be a provincial law and a provincial system in place in order to effectively manage this. When we used to talk about such things some years back, everybody used to say, what are you talking about? But since the system is in place, I think everybody has seen how the system works, and all that they need to do is the others need to implement the same system. And as far as the human resource or the capacity building of the personnel and in fact training is concerned, we'll be happy to help them in the training process.
Okay, so
what
sorry.
needs to be understood over here, a couple of things which should be very, very clear. There's a difference between gardening and firefighting. Unfortunately, what we've been doing up till now is gardening. I mean, this is not firefighting. The firefighters are properly trained. They are some of the best trained personnel that you will find in the West. If you go, they're the most respected people. They are the heroes of every day. And they have gained that respect with the passage of time as a result of their training, as a result of their performance and the professionalism that they do while they are doing the rescue operations, firefighting. So what they have to do is, there are a couple of things that they have to be in place. Number one, there is no law to say who's going to respond to an emergency, how it's going to be managed, how a fire is going to be managed, who's going to be responsible for rescue operations. There has to be a well-defined and a very clear system so that the public at least knows that in case of an emergency, where are we supposed to dial, who is going to respond, and if they don't respond, then who's going to be accountable? Unless and until you don't have a well-defined and a clear system, it doesn't work. Whatever resources you're going to put in, they're going to be, it's going to be a failure of resources. So it's not always an issue of resources or a lack of capacity. For instance, 20 stations, you talk about 20 stations. We started the entire system in Lahore, which is about 8 million, half the city, but we just started with 6 stations. And just because of an effective management, monitoring system, and a well-coordinated, comprehensive emergency preparedness, response, and prevention system that we have in place, just with 6 stations, we provided a response time of 7 minutes, and today we've dealt with over 100,000 emergencies.
That's exactly what I wanted to ask you, actually. What's your analysis of the fire service in Sindh comparatively with that of Lahore and Islamabad, which is hugely modernized? You're saying it's organisation and implementation, but is it not equipment as well?
There are 3 things which have to be done in a very clear manner. Otherwise, we won't get the desired. Whatever investment we've been putting in. You know, when I was making a capacity development report in 2001, I went to places where there had been equipment for last 7 or 8 years, and they asked me, what is this meant for? You see, so what happens is that even if you get the best of equipment, but there's nobody to use them effectively, then it all goes waste. So the most important thing which has to be done, number one, there has to be a legislation in place which establishes a proper system, number one. Then there have to be professionals who have to be trained in the professional firefighting and how it has to be done. They must be properly know that how they have to use their proper gear, how they need to make an entry into a building. Standing outside the building, just throwing water is not firefighting. You have to properly